All right, we are back on the podcast where we are training men in spiritual fitness. I am Evan McGinty here with my good friend, Joe Barnard. Joe, how are you this morning?
I'm doing well. Missing Andy. We don't have Andy with us today, so I'll have to be the token Scotsman.
Yeah, this it's very disappointing. I'm not gonna lie. You're like half Scot, but not even fully half. I don't count it. You're there in Scotland, but
That's it. Yeah.
I'm missing the rich voice of Andy. So yeah, we'll try to pretend to be him at some point. But no, I'm glad guys have joined us again on the podcast where we're kind of finishing out a series with our new friend Richard Baxter. We've been reading for a number of weeks The Saints' Everlasting Rest, an old book, a long book, probably too long, honestly. But we've just been reading the last like few chapters, trying to help men become heavenly minded. How do we become the kind of guys that are thinking about heaven and the things of God, setting our mind on the things that are above? I think most guys will probably identify with the fact that prayer's hard, right? I don't know, Joe, do
Yeah.
you find prayer to be easy? Is your prayer life just amazing?
Yeah. Mine's not. No, I don't think I've ever met anybody who wants to boast of theirs. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's we go through phases. I think it's all of us as men. Sometimes our prayer life is real strong, sometimes it's a real struggle. But all throughout that, I think we find distraction in our prayer life to be easy, a wandering mind, a wandering heart, abrupt endings where we just like start praying and then just walk off or completely forgot that we were praying. All these sorts of things are things that Richard Baxter actually talks about in his book, and I think helps guys to begin to address. So if you're the kind of guy who struggles with your prayer life and struggles with distraction and stuff like this is where our friend Richard Baxter, I think, can help you. So I want us to jump into it. There's a piece in this chapter, Joe, where Baxter's really trying to get us to talk about the role of our imaginations in heavenly contemplation and in prayer. And he says something really weird. So because it's weird, I'm going to throw it to you because surely you understand it. But he says to bring down your conceptions to the reach of sense. All right, what does this mean? How does this actually help guys pray?
I think often if you listen to our prayers, if you listen even to sermons, there's a lot of words that we would struggle to define or describe.
Hmm.
And they're supposed to move us, but they tend not to move us. So let me just mention a few: holiness,
Uh,
glory,
uh,
blessing. They all come across as really indefinite and abstract. Now, we also know, though, that we're made with senses, and we know that the world around us that we sense, things we see, or music we hear, or stuff we can touch, we're quickly moved by that. And so, what Baxter is saying is that if we want heavenly realities to actually impact us emotionally, effectively, then we have to make use of our imagination. We have to get things at the level where we can think in terms of stuff we can sense and feel and hear and taste,
mm,
which is going to help stir our heart in a different way.
mhm.
He says this, he says, to conceive of God in glory only as above our contemplation will beget little love and little joy. Therefore, put Christ no further from you than he has put himself.
Mm.
And I think what he's saying there is God, who is so far above anything we can conceive of, he's actually come to us in a way that we can imagine. He came
Yeah,
as a man.
yeah.
Jesus came as a man. He was touched. He was heard. He was hugged. He was embraced. And so where the scripture gives us, whether it's metaphors or images or stories or Jesus himself, let the imagination grab hold, and this stuff's going to give us traction in terms of not just our thought but our feeling.
Yeah, I love this. Using the things that we can sense and know now to help us and guide us towards that heavenly contemplation. A lot of what he's doing here too is helping guys kind of play a comparison game, right? So, and it's not like, hey, compare what you have with what your neighbor has, and it's also not like, hey, compare who you are and what you have right now to the man that you were outside of Christ. No, what he's really trying to get guys to do is compare now what you're seeing and experiencing now with what is in heaven and what will be in heaven. So taking he uses things like one that guys probably are familiar with. You get up a high mountain, hike up this beautiful mountain, and it's sunset, and you look at the gorgeous sunset, and it's beautiful and it's wondrous and it's glorious. And we as men, we've probably all been told, hopefully, hey, don't worship the creation, worship the creator, right? Trying to say, okay, there's this beautiful thing that's right in front of you. It's glorious and it's amazing, but it's meant to point your mind and your attention to the creator, the one who made it. So he does a lot of this, playing this comparison game in this chapter of saying, hey, what's something that's right in front of you? How do you compare the delights of it with the delights of heaven? He even uses things like he says, there's guys that get engrossed in things like whether it be mathematics or reading a good book. Maybe you're the kind of guy that gets lost in a book, and there's just nothing that can distract your mind from that book. Or you get lost in thinking about fishing, hunting, football. You get a new video game, and a new character comes out or something. It doesn't matter the threat of tomorrow and work and not being able to operate when there's no sleep that there's nothing that can disengage you from that new video game and going all night with it. It says, well, now think about now the delights that you will once have in heaven. Think about that. Now, what could possibly disengage you from that? How do you become the kind of man who is so enthralled and engrossed with the thoughts of heaven that there's no threat of death? Nothing can disengage you from those kind of thoughts. He's really kind of pushing guys to think and delight in God so much. Like, look at Jesus. Think about Jesus so much that until you die and then see him, right? Like you're just engrossed. You're so there over and over again, which is hard. All right. So this is where I'm like, start to read this. I'm like, wait a second, Baxter. You're asking me to think about heaven and holiness and glory, all these things as much or in such a way that like guys think about video games or Netflix, like to be so engrossed with it that there's nothing that can disengage me from those thoughts. That's a high calling. I think that's a high bar. And if I were to say this thing, I think no ordinary Christian man is doing this, right, Joe? We were talking beforehand, and you said, how many men do you think in Louisiana, in the state of Louisiana, actually do this thing? And what was the answer? What did you say?
We thought zero on a given day.
I think zero. I think that's right. This is not something ordinary Christian men do. This is a very, very difficult thing because we struggle with things like distraction and our wandering mind and stuff. So I don't know. Pick that up for me. Was there any parts of those comparisons that you thought really helped with Baxter?
I think what's helpful is if guys think there's a sort of set of steps that you go up with this. So you don't have to like do a massive leap and all of a sudden your mind's in heaven. Start with the things that, like you said, captivate you. And so imagine it's a new video game and you're thinking, this is engrossing. And you ask, why is it engrossing? Well, because there's this great adventure. I mean, truth be told, you enter in this game and you've got this great task and you've got to go explore this world. Well, ask yourself, if it's that exhilarating to be playing this video game, what will it be like one day to be given a resurrected body and have a new heavens and new earth unveiled in front of you? Like that's got to be more exciting. And so take the joy that you can already appreciate, find a way then to compare it to something even better that God has in store. Because what Baxter's talking about, this isn't about like self-denial and asceticism and denying ourselves pleasures. It's about seeing the things that are good right now. If you know what to do with these things, they whet your appetite. It's like a delicious appetizer that, man, I think of Covington, Gallagher's, if you go to Gallagher's restaurant, man, you get the appetizer and you're waiting for the steak. Because if the appetizer is that good, just wait until the steak comes out. It's going to be even better. And Baxter's saying, if you know how to compare things, you can do the same thing all the time right now, in ordinary life.
That's good. That's good. So I think the average man listening to this is saying, yeah, great idea. I love it. All right. I understand the whole like taking steps, comparing what I have now and my lived experiences. Okay. But I wonder a lot in prayer. Like I get distracted very easily. Like even if you gave me stair steps to get there, Joe, I would get distracted so quickly. My heart wanders, my mind wanders. And Baxter addresses some of this. So what advice does Baxter give the kind of wandering heart of a man?
I think it's really it's funny. Guys will have encountered someone, on YouTube who, tells them if they want to get their life in order, take responsibility, make your bed, don't stop blaming your circumstances, go to the gym. Now, Baxter does something that you never hear modern people do. And he says to all of us, like, take authority for your mind, take responsibility for your mind. And listen to this is a quote from him. He says, "Deal thus with your heart, persuade it to the work, take no denial, chide it for its backwardness, use violence against it. Have you no command of your own thoughts? Is not the subject of your meditations a matter of choice?" I mean, there's a sense the dignity of being a human being is we actually can control our mind in a way that, from what we know, animals can't.
Mm.
Um, so we maybe have forfeited that ability, but we can also take back that authority. And so I think the first thing is just for guys to stop making excuses, realize that God's given them the dignity of being able to direct their thought. And so even it's the same thing. I mean, if you've been sitting in front of the TV, eating pizza for the last 10 years, it's going to be hard to get off the couch, but you take your first step. And
Yeah.
here we're talking, it might just be for 15 seconds. Take your first step, control your mind, and begin to set the direction that your thoughts follow.
Yeah.
So I think it's just, I mean, he's pretty stark. He also says to ask for God's help because that's available to us, but he does say, act like a man and take control of your thoughts.
Right, right. Yeah, in so many ways, Baxter's like the David Goggins of the spiritual world. He's just yelling and saying, like, come on, do it, just do it. Take control of yourself. But in other ways, honestly, I think what he's trying to say is be your own David Goggins. Like, yell at yourself. Like, come on, get yourself under control. And that's part of what I really love about what Baxter's helping guys do here is, hey, you're already talking to yourself in your head. But talk to yourself in the right way. Like tell yourself to get your mind under control. Put your attention where it needs to be. It's okay to talk to yourself in that way and to say, "Hold on, Evan. Why is your mind wandering? Get back onto the subject at
Yeah.
hand. Stop going away." That's an okay thing to do. It's actually a good thing to do to be the kind of guy who has a good meditative practice, a good prayer life. Sometimes you're gonna have to get onto yourself. Be like a drill sergeant. Say, wait a second, no, we're not getting out of line. Get back in line. Get back in line. Get back in line. One of the other kind of smaller issues that he addresses is just abrupt endings. And I know I've experienced this myself, where just you're praying, and then all of a sudden it just disappears. It's over. You just prayer comes to an end. What does Baxter have to say to guys about these abrupt endings?
Yeah, I mean, I think guys should be encouraged. I mean, when you read someone like Baxter, you realize the things that we struggle with have always been points of difficulty.
Mm.
Whether it's what he calls trifling thoughts or making excursions, the way that your mind just
Ah,
veers from prayer into thinking about, what you need to buy from the grocery store. But yeah, he's got these abrupt endings, and I think I like it because he kind of gives a framework to push beyond that and to continue. And so
yeah.
he gives images. And again, this is what we were talking about earlier.
Mm.
But, he talks about, for example, if you're taking a trip and you stop halfway, you'd be
Yeah.
disappointed. If
Yeah.
you get in the car Thanksgiving, you're gonna go see your family across the United States, and you stop in Alabama instead of stopping, in Virginia and
Mm.
go home. That's not why you're in the car. It's not why you packed up the car. And if you're sitting in your study and you are trying to get your mind and affections on heavenly matters, and you just find yourself all of a sudden stopping and thinking about your tasks,
Mhm.
that's not why you're there. Press on, get back on track, get back in the car and keep going toward Virginia. And he gives another image. He says, imagine, you're waiting all night for the sunrise. And then, just imagine it's like 4:30 or 5 a.m. The sun's about to come up, around the horizon. And then you go home, you go back inside your house and you don't see the sunrise. If you've been waiting in prayer and God's not yet touched your heart, stay a little longer. It
Yeah.
might just be in front of you. And
Yeah.
so this to actually go through these kinds of scenarios in your head, to not let yourself just give in to weakness, but to press forward, like you were saying, it's that talking to yourself. You're your own drill instructor saying, no, this is not why I'm here. I'm
Mhm.
here to go and meet with God. I'm going to stay here until I actually am blessed, like Jacob wrestling with God.
Mm. It's good. And I think so much of this, honestly, as guys hear it, you can fall into a bit of despair at times because it's like, you know what it's like to have your mind wander. You know what it's like to have these trifling thoughts that come up. Oh, the grocery list or the million things you got to do. You know what it's like to have the abrupt endings, to leave before the sun rises, to leave before you get to the destination. we've all done this and honestly probably do it every day. And so I kind of want to take the opposite David Goggins. You know, I'm a little bit of the soft-hearted one, and so I want to say, yeah, you need to do it, guys. You need to direct yourself. But I also want to say, guys, don't fall into despair and think, well, I'll never be that kind of guy. Don't fall into a pit that says, well, that's for a certain type of man, but I'll never be that type of man. Again, part of what Baxter's pointing us to is that all of us, I mean, any man who is in Christ, you will one day be the kind of guy whose mind cannot wander from the glory of God. Right? You are one day going to be in heaven, and your mind will not be able to wander away from the glories of heaven and the goodness of God. So you're becoming that man. And so now for all of us, it's getting in that direction, knowing, okay, wait, that is in store for me. God does have that in store for me. I need to start now, 15 minutes a day, trying to direct my mind towards heavenly contemplation. I need to, setting some sort of track to that the kind of man that was becoming that would do. So you're just trying to get on track to that which you are becoming. It's you can't fall into that lie of I'll never be that man. No, you will. You will. Every one of us, we will be engrossed in it, all of us, with the glory and the goodness of God. And so we need to now begin training and getting our minds in those places because it's going to be here before we know it. It comes sooner than we think. And let us, have now our mind set in that place. Um, is there, I guess, there wasn't a lot more in this chapter that I want to go on, but I do want to kind of end this series by just getting some final thoughts from you on Baxter, big picture stuff for guys, or anything that you want guys to remember, something that sticks out to you in this series, Joe.
Yeah, I think going back, what you were just saying, if men want to grow in this and take baby steps, and we all take baby steps in any direction of change, that's how we change. I think these old books and these old Puritans, they're not books like we're accustomed to reading. You don't
Yeah.
just go page by page. There's
Yeah.
just there's too much. But what they're really good for is if you think of them as a series of workouts. And so if you take like a paragraph, one of Baxter's comparisons, he'll tell you how to take a sensual pleasure and compare it to a spiritual pleasure. If you just take that one paragraph, I think today, I'm just going to try this.
Yeah.
I'm just going to try to put into practice what he says in this paragraph. And he gives examples. And if you use his examples and play with his examples, I think that's the way to take baby steps
Mm.
is to actually see him as your model and your coach and
Mm.
him actually giving you kind of instructions on what you can do. And so a book like this, you've not read it if you finished it. It's more like a sort of manual that bit by bit, you could spend the next 5 years just paragraph by paragraph putting it into practice. And eventually you would be growing into it, but it's going to take that kind of deliberate effort and that kind of slow reading with application
Mm.
to really see personal growth. But the last thing I'd say is if you really want to see this in action, and you've been listening to us and thinking, I still don't know what you're talking about.
Mm.
There's a final chapter where Baxter just says, look, I'm going to show you. And it's amazing. I mean, my dream, I grew up in Covington, Louisiana. That's a couple of famous people used to live in Covington. One was Pete Maravich, a great NBA player. My dream as a kid was to be able to be in a basketball gym, and play with Pistol Pete.
Yeah.
Would have been amazing. Now, what you get to do in this last chapter is you get to just sit and listen to Baxter as he does it. And
Mm.
honestly, like you can understand why he was a great man. Anybody who could so clearly and passionately speak about heavenly realities. I mean, he's moving his own heart, but he's moving your heart too as you listen to the conversation. So I would say, guys, if you buy the book, just read the last chapter and just get a sense for what is possible, that it's actually attainable in this life to have those kinds of moments before God. And if it takes you 25 years to get there, it's worth it. It's a good
Yes.
investment of time. And so don't think it's not something you're going to work into your life over a week, a month, a year. Have one of those big goals. Man, when I'm a 60-year-old, 65-year-old man, I want to be able to pray like this.
Yeah.
That's the kind of, big, hairy, audacious goal that you need with this.
Yes. Yeah, and I echo what you say about the last chapter being gold, and just that guys do need to check it out and mine it for what it is. I found for myself personally, um, I'm probably not the only guy that wakes up in the middle of the night with just crazy anxiety occasionally, or wakes up in the middle of the night with your mind just a million and you can't go back to sleep. I don't know. You experience that as well, Joe? I think most guys do. Like you just wake up and it's like 2 a.m. and you're like, why am I awake? And then you just a million things on your mind and you can go in dark places and stuff. And I know the right thing to do, right? Like I know that what I should do is pray, and I do, and I try to direct my mind to prayer. But what I've found in Baxter, what he's helped me with, is what I really need during those times when it's the middle of the night and I've got anxiety or whatever in my mind. I just need a structure of something to grab a hold of that will redirect my mind in healthy places. And I think that's what Baxter has done. He's helped me have those kind of preaching to yourself moments in the middle of the night. And that's what this last chapter is he's preaching to himself these glorious goodness. And I think just even taking those, having one of those paragraphs, like you said, don't take the whole thing, but like read a chapter, like the one paragraph of it, just one small paragraph before you go to bed, and you have that on your mind. You have something to come back to in the middle of the night to preach to yourself the glories and the goodness. Set your mind where it needs to be. I don't know. For myself, this has been worth it for that. Really, really powerful exercise to have somewhere to put your mind in those moments when you're just lost in the middle of the night and that kind of thing. Um, I guess the only other thing I'd say to guys, just to kind of wrap this up, I was listening to something or reading something a couple weeks ago, and it was a conversation about death and like people talking about how do you want to die? Just talking to people, how do you want to die? And the most common answer to that question is you want to die in your home with your loved ones surrounding you, maybe talking to you, praying over you, singing a song with you, whatever. But you want to die conscious of what's coming next. Like you want to die thinking of, for a Christian, die thinking of heaven, die thinking of what's coming next, and with those that love you or around you, stuff like that, which is neat. I mean, I've always wanted to die fighting a bear, so that's kind of my thing. I don't know about you, Joe, but I do think that part of what Baxter here is pushing us is we want to live thinking of heaven. We don't want to just die thinking of heaven. A lot of us, that's how we want to pass into the next life is thinking of heaven and what is to come. And I hope that we do die knowing what's coming next. But let's live every day thinking of heaven and the glories of heaven and the glories of what's to come. And what sort of men would we become if we did meditate on that? If we did set our minds on the things that are above, how would that begin to affect us? And so I hope guys have taken something out of this. Like I said, there's 0 men in Louisiana right now doing this, and I'm in Louisiana, so that tells you something. But no, I am trying to practice this, and it's hard. We want to become, like Joe said, when we're 60, down the line, we want to be the kind of guys that can do this. So we're training together, and that's what we hope this podcast to be, is training in spiritual fitness. So thank you guys for joining us in this series, and join us for whatever we've got coming next. We'll see you next time.